What's up, guys? On this episode of Inspiration Nation, we've got a Cobra. And on this Cobra, we're going to be putting some really awesome parts. We've got a Street Warrior aluminum intake. We got the full Holley Sniper EFI system with distributor. We've got some Ford Performance Cobra valve covers and some billet accessories. So stay tuned. Now the first thing we've got to do is beat the ugly out of this thing, starting with these red T-handles. Not sure where they come from, but we're going to have a word with the owner about those. But we're going to remove all of the serpentine setup that was on here because it used to have a Vortex supercharger. After you remove your old intake manifold, take a straight razor, be very careful, watch your fingers, and trim and lay it really flat and scrape and get off all the old gasket and the sealant. Because you want a nice smooth surface when you apply your new sealant and new gaskets for your new intake manifold. Now when you start scraping, we always put some shop rags down on the top of the engine so any little particles can get down in there. Then you take a small shop vac and suck them out. Now we're ready to install the intake manifold after everything's clean. You get your selected RTV and go around everything that you need to. We'll show you that. I prefer Honda Bond. It's just me, I've always used it, works wonderful. What you want to start with is a couple dots to hold your intake gaskets in place. You want to go across the front and the back of the block, in between the heads, with a stripe of RTV, Honda Bond, whatever. Once you set your intake manifold and you start running your bolts in, just make sure they're all kind of finger tight down, and then there's a specific torque sequence on these small block Fords that you have to follow. Next thing we want to do is Holley Sniper comes with its own coolant temps gauge or sensor. So we're going to mount it up here in the front, and it comes with a sealant already on it. Then next, we're going to plug the ones that we don't use. Now we're running into a little bit of an issue with our beautiful Cobra valve covers and our really nice Ford roller rockers. So what's happening is they're hitting the baffles, not letting it sit all the way down. So our solution is we're going to take just a little bit of red RTV, just on the top of the four studs. Now, here's your baffle. What you want to do is line up your holes with the way the valve covers are going to mount. And there's where you got to drill the holes out, big enough to clear the studs. Now, to make these perfect holes, we're going to use a knockout. day 2 on the Cobra project. That's why we didn't get the video out on Friday. Found out we had to get a new water pump and some bolts and stuff that didn't come with the kits and everything we had. So, biggest issue was needed a standard rotation water pump. The one that came on the Fox Body small block engine was a reverse clockwise or counterclockwise water pump, and we needed a standard rotation water pump. Little helpful tip on these small block Fords. When you're putting the water pump on, put a little sealant around the threads of the bolts that go through the water jacket, just so you don't have any coolant seepage. Now, if you're planning on installing some billet underdrive style pulleys with a serpentine setup, make sure you calculate like 50 trips to the hardware store for bolts, because the bolts they send you don't work, or they're not long enough, or what have you. Just make sure you're going bank on going to the hardware store about 3 times. It's gonna happen. So with the car being previously pro-charged, it's got a dual fuel pump system, and we're going to reroute all this and simplify it. Just really clean it up, and plus the lines are really old, so they're all in question as far as how good they would be. Well, this is the end of episode 1. We've managed to get the intake, valve covers, and the serpentine set all mounted, and we've started with the Sniper fuel injection system. We have it all bolted in place. Now we're just routing our wiring and discovering just how scary the original wiring on the car was. So we've spent some time deleting out all the old fuel injection ECM wiring harness, and now we'll be doing new fuel lines and fuel pressure regulators and all that stuff, just so we can keep it safe. But it's 2 a.m. in the shop right now. We're calling it a night. Till next time.